Hello, welcome back to Only Pistols. Today we're having a look at original 6M. This is a 177 spring-powered recoilless target pistol. Let's start by looking at the markings on it. So on this side on the barrel, caliber 4.5177, the serial number and the F in a pentagram for the German low pressure air gun marking. So no further licensing required. Further back on the receiver, made in Germany, and then the date stamp, which is 1179. On this side, Deutsche Bundespatent and Ostpatent, so German patent, federal patents and other patents applied. No other markings on this side. On the top, we've got original and model 6M. So let's start by looking at the rear sight on this, and it's a fairly typical original rear sight of this age. So what you've got is adjustment for elevation and for windage. It's fairly limited ability to move these around, so you don't get a massive amount of ability to move them. And what you've also got at the back here is a rotating rear sight element. So you've got two sizes of notch, of square notch, and two sizes of U notch. So this one's currently sat on the widest rear notch sight. Front sight is drifted into a keyway on the top of the barrel. It should have a screw to help hold it and locate it, and it's missing on this case. And otherwise, if you undo this screw here on the side, you can rotate the front sight element, in part to get the width that you need, but also according to the original manual, so that you can actually face it towards the light source, so you get the best shadow. I think with modern lighting, you're just looking to make it as wide or narrow as possible. Otherwise, then you've got a rotating barrel shroud, which is plastic, and that is held by a spring. So you can see the action of it there, just moving. So it's held in place by a spring. And that is just used to protect the front sight when you cock the pistol. The barrel itself is pretty well plain, quite a lot of markings on it from being machined, and it's a phosphate finish, so it's dull finish. The receiver is bright blued steel, and then the cover for the trigger mechanism and providing the grip frame is an aluminium housing. So that's aluminium, and that covers all of the trigger mechanism. That comes round to actually provide a mounting point and a frame for the trigger, for the grips, and the grips are two-part plastic, pretty well fixed. There was a later version that also had that came with hardwood grips that included a palm shelf. This is just the basic model. You either fit these grips or you don't. They definitely take some holding on to, and that's mainly because of the depth of the frame. Otherwise, you've got a cap on the back that holds the springs in place, and that's held in place with this screw at the bottom. Trigger is two-stage, and what you've got there at the front is a lock screw, and then you've got this double screw arrangement here, and that is to enable you to change the sear engagement. So one is a coarse and one is a fine adjustment, but basically that's just adjusting the weight of the sear engagement, which does give you some control over the weight of the let-off. Because it's a Model 6M, you've got these two gear caps. Because this is an earlier pistol, these are still domed. The later pistols, you would get concentric, fairly flat fairly flat covers that would have concentric rings on them. And then on the top, you've got the screws that actually hold them in place. So that's all those are. using it, cocking it, you've got the cover for the barrel shroud, and you literally rotate that round and set it's spring powered, and you just use that to cock the pistol. You've got a ball detent, sprung ball detent, and a peg on the front of the breech face to actually locate it. You've got an O-ring seal here, and behind that you've got metal shims. This is still quite noticeably affected by how well that O-ring works as to the point of aim. The other thing with these is that when the barrel is cocked, the cocking lever covers the trigger. So although it's not a bear trap, so the cylinder piston is still live, it's not being held back by anything else, you can't actually pull the trigger on these to either relieve the pressure on the spring or to actually accidentally fire it. But that doesn't mean that the piston is otherwise constrained, so just be careful as always when loading a spring pistol. Close that back up, rotate the shroud down, take up the first stage, and then a really nice trigger let off. So definitely still 500 grams compliant, but a very nice, very crisp trigger release. So quite simply, push the pellet into the breech, close it round, and that action of just turning that round becomes quite easy. Other things about this pistol? Well, coming on to the barrel shroud, there is a weakness in these, as you can see. I mean, you've got a fairly thin piece of plastic. This one has been repaired. You quite often find these with cracked or missing end pieces. I think this one has probably been repaired by some form of glass fibre and then painted over. Not the prettiest of repairs, but it is effective. And again, missing that front screw, so quite where that went I don't know, but it is held well in place by the keyway, and if you're removing it, you drift it out from the left to the right. So accuracy, well, for once I managed to do my part. The pistol is perfectly capable of shooting one-hole groups, and for once I managed to actually hold it all together for an entire 5-shot string. So yeah, it's a perfectly accurate, perfectly capable pistol. Despite all my griping about the grip, it can do it. You've just got to put a bit more effort into it. Production, 1978 to 1999/2000 is what's listed. This one, November 1979, so one of the earlier ones. GISS, well, that refers to the piston system. So basically what you've got in here is 2 pistons of equal weight with a spring in between them. And what happens when you cock the pistol is you're moving the piston with the seal on backwards, and at the same time, because of the gearing, the piston with the weight, just a buffer on it, is moved backwards, so you get the 2 pistons meet in the middle. When you pull the trigger, those move in opposite directions equally at the same speed at the same time and cancel each other out. So this is a truly recoilless pistol because of the system. It works very well and it is truly recoilless. The only downside is with the 6, because it is basically the same pistol as the original Model 6 from 1960, is it's quite a tall grip. So you're holding onto it quite a long way down, and the sight picture is quite tall, so you've got quite a lot going on above your hand. But still very effective. The other thing about these is the name. So Diana was actually the company that made them. Original was what you got if you were having a UK bound pistol, because the name Diana was now owned by, or since the Second World War, was owned by Milbro, and they continued to hold that name up until the 80s when Diana got it back again. But original was only one of the names that would appear on these pistols. You also would find the same pistol with the name High Score, Beeman, RWS, Gecko and Geckardo, as well as Peerless and Winchester. Some of them would stick with the 6M name, others would have their own branding name on it for what the model was. So a perfectly usable pistol. This one, 1979, as I said, it's obviously seen some use. It's not in any way pristine. It will have been resealed, but it's an absolutely fully functioning target pistol right now and would be quite happy on any range. Takes a bit more work because of that grip and not really adjustable by today's standards, but still perfectly adequate and perfectly serviceable as a target pistol and totally recoilless. So if you've liked this, then please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, do all the other YouTubey stuff, and otherwise I'll see you again soon with another pistol. Thanks very much. Bye.